You're called H by your friends and family. Where'd you get the nickname H?
Well, I'm named after my uncle Harold, and his name, they called him H. When I came along, they called me Little H. And gradually I got as big as him, and they just dropped the little.
Okay.
Well, I like to do these small models, actually more than sketches. I used to do sketches first, but when you do the pinch model, you get it all in the round, the whole design. Whereas in a drawing, you just can't get that feeling of the in the round, you know, three-dimensional. So you can work out all your kind of design and things like that in the small pinch model before you do a maquette or larger piece.
This is pretty detailed.
Yeah, I probably do a little too much detail on them, but I use it as a selling tool too. Some people can't visualize in a pinch model if it doesn't have some kind of more definition than what it's going to look like. So, well, it's going to look like that, you know, just blobs. So it didn't take you that much more time to do a little, make it look more real.
We're going to look at some other ones later.
It just didn't have the, at that time, where what I was going to do as make a living. If it's going to be an artist, it would have to be commercial. Yeah, to make a living, to while I figured if I could get it into commercial art, make a living, I could paint and eventually sculpt at night what I wanted to do, and then gradually get into it that way.
How were you making a living during this time? Late 50s,
well,
early 50s.
I did everything from a bricklayer apprentice to went down to Houston actually well, then I was in the Navy for a couple of years, and then I went to Houston to work on one of my uncle's drilling rigs. We were going to Mississippi, and he had a neighbor that was a commercial artist, illustrator, and I went over to see him, talk to him, and he told me about that little commercial school, and that's how I got into that. Well, I caught my ship in Subic Bay, Philippines. The next day, the Tonkin War broke out. So that's where I spent the next year down the Gulf of Tonkin, supplying the carriers and tin cans with ammo, bombs. So I was wondering what in the heck, you know, the next day, you know, I get there, stay out to sea for at least a month at a time, come back, load our decks up with bombs. But I don't know which instance you're talking about. The what?
The MiGs coming in?
Oh, we had one general quarters that this is not a drill. Yeah. Of course, I knew we were on a ammo ship, and we couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. We had 2 3-inch 50s on there, and in practice we couldn't hit the sleeves even, you know, the practice. And so I said, oh gosh, you know, the enemy aircraft. I said, we're dead. I had to crawl out of a hole 5 holes down, and you're supposed to run port and starboard. Well, I was running down the wrong way. I was running into everybody trying to get to the gun, you know. And we were on the gun and couldn't see anything. And then just sitting there, all of a sudden you see ships pop up in the horizon, you know, 12-mile horizon, all around us. And then these our jets came over, just shook our superstructure. you know, when you first saw them coming, you said, oh. But then they went over, they were ours, they were going after those. So that was, I thought I was done for there. They had one of those ammos blow up, ships blow up in the home port there in Port Chicago up the river from Frisco. And they found the anchor 10 miles away. So I knew and we had nuclear weapons on board, so. If that's the story you're thinking about.
That's the one.
Well, I really try to take care of all of the non-creative things that have to be done. You know, sending in things that need to be sent into shows and trying to keep the tech people supplied with the information to update the website. I'm not technical by nature, so I wish had I known this is the road my life was going to take, I would have learned much more about computers and digital images and those kinds of things. But I really try to take care of all of those things, to try to free him up as much as he can to work and not be burdened with the deadlines that Ed and other people place on him to have work at various shows. And I'm also kind of the whip cracker part of that. But you know, he's done a lot of monuments, like 20 monuments, and I'm an attorney by training, which I think is helpful. I wish I had more business skills, but I draft the contracts for those things. So I've done a lot of the I've done most of the contracts on the monuments that he's done. And you know, I like that part of it. I mean, it's a lot more fun than practicing law because you get to be involved with creative people and great museums and travel and those kinds of things. So really, anything that's not painting or sculpting, you know, I try to do and take care of all the paperwork and keep the records on where limited edition prints are going and where the bronzes are. I try to go to the foundry and pick up and drop off things. Obviously, I can't do the critiquing part at the foundry that has to be done. So he does have to go to the foundry some, but if it's just going to pick up or drop off or do things, then I can do that.
But you are somewhat of a critic of...
Now, where did you hear that? Because I am.
Yeah.
I am. I mean,
she's a good one too.
I mean, I grew up, you know, around horses and with a ranch family, and I may not know what's wrong, and I'm not always right. But if I see something that is bothering me, I will express that to him as best I can, and you know, he'll either agree or disagree and change it or not change it. But I know he doesn't want anything leaving this studio that's not his best work, and so, you know, if he asks for my opinion, I certainly give it, and then sometimes when he doesn't ask for it,
I was going to say, yeah.